Hi, my name is Mary Cedio, and I'm the Gifted and Talented Specialist at Briscoe Middle School. The state plan for education of gifted and talented students defines a gifted student as one who exhibits high performance capability in an intellectual, creative, or artistic area, possesses an unusual capacity for leadership, or excels in a specific academic field. In NISD, our program aims to provide instruction designed to meet the unique needs of students with advanced general intellectual ability and/or specific subject matter aptitude, provide appropriately differentiated curriculum in efforts to help students work to their fullest potential, and provide GT services that may include a modified delivery of instruction for students by accelerating and/or providing for greater depth, more complex content, and enrichment activities. If you're watching this recording, you are probably wondering if your child might be gifted. And there's a difference between a bright child and a gifted learner. A bright child is the child who knows the answers, they're interested, they're attentive, they have good ideas, they work hard, they answer the questions, they're in the top group, they listen with interest, they learn with ease, they only need 3 to 8 repetitions for mastery, they understand the ideas, they enjoy their peers, grasp the meaning of things, they complete assignments, they're receptive, they copy correctly. All of this allows them to really enjoy school. It's like school was designed for them. They do very well in the traditional school environment. They absorb information easily. They're a good memorizer, a technician. Once you show them how to do something, they're able to do it. They love straightforward. They want a correct answer. They like there to be a correct answer, one right answer, and they like knowing it. They enjoy sequential presentations. That's what makes sense to them. And they're very alert, and they're very used to they're pleased with their own learning. Now, your GT child, on the other hand, instead of knowing the answers, they raise their hand in class and they ask more questions. They're very highly curious. They ask hundreds of questions a day. They are mentally and physically involved, so oftentimes they're moving around, they're into something, they just have to get up and make something. If it strikes them and they're curious about something, suddenly they're building something in your house. They have wild and silly ideas. They seem to play around all the time, and yet when it comes time for the test, they still test well. They like to discuss details, and they love to elaborate. They want to go beyond whatever the group is doing. They show very strong feelings and opinions. They have high emotional reactivity. They seem to already know things because they only need 1 to 2 repetitions for mastery. So they have mastered things sometimes before we feel like we've taught it, because maybe we were just introducing a topic and that was enough for them to get it. Then they went home and they researched it more on their own because they were so interested, and now they know about it. They like to construct abstractions. They oftentimes prefer the company of adults to their peers. Sometimes they have trouble getting along with their peers, collaborating with their peers, and communicating with their peers. This can sometimes make group projects difficult for them, and they end up taking the whole project on themselves because it's easier to just do it all themselves in their mind than it is to actually work with others. They're very good at drawing inferences. They initiate projects on their own. They're very intense. They create new designs. They enjoy learning for learning's sake and not necessarily just for the grade. They like to manipulate and play around with information. They like to invent new ideas. Even if they can't actually make it, they maybe just invent the idea, and they're making little prototypes and things like that. They're very good guessers. They don't necessarily always know as much as they seem, because a lot of times they can make inferences about the way that a question was posed, and they can figure out what it is that you're wanting them to answer as opposed to what the answer actually is. They thrive on complexity. They like when projects are difficult. They're keenly observant, and they're often highly self-critical. So it's important to know that our gifted kids aren't always successful in school. What makes a child gifted and talented may not always be good grades in school, but a different way of learning and looking at the world. And we want to identify those kids that have that different way of learning and that different way of looking at the world and make sure that they have their niche, they have their place where we serve their needs and we make sure that they are able to learn in the way that their brain works. There are 6 different types of gifted students, and we're going to go into each of these types. And you may find as we go through these types, you might see your child in one of these types, 6 types of gifted students. The first is the successful student. These are the ones that are most commonly identified because they're high achievers. They accept and conform, and they do very well in school typically. The next type is the creative type. This type is very honest and direct. Sometimes they butt heads with their teachers and can oftentimes even seem rude at times because they're so honest, because they're so direct, and because they can be very impulsive. They're non-conforming and they're highly creative. The underground GT student denies their talent. Maybe they're trying to fit in, but they'll reject challenges and they'll tend to choose options that are easier for them. Like they might say, no, I don't want to be tested for GT because I can make an easy A in the class I'm in. So why would I take on something harder where I might not make the easy A, or I might have to work for the higher grade? We want to make sure that we identify even these kiddos, though, because where you learn is when you're challenged. And everybody needs to learn how to be challenged. They need to learn sometimes from failure. They need to learn to work at their capacity so that they can realize their potential. These underground GT students, because they shy away from challenges, they don't always feel connected to their peers or teachers. And you could see where that could pose a problem as well. The next type of GT student is the at-risk GT student. These kiddos are going to pursue outside interests. They can be very thrill-seeking, critical of self and others, frustrated with school. Maybe these are the kids that could write their own programming and design their own video games, and they just don't care about whatever is happening in their regular math and ELA classes because they're just pursuing those outside interests. But you can see that high potential. You can see those characteristics I talked about earlier, those characteristics of a gifted learner. The next type is the multi-exceptional student. These guys enjoy novelty and complexity. They seem disorganized and they demonstrate inconsistent work. This can happen because they may have another exceptionality. Maybe they have something like dyslexia or ADHD, or they could even be on the spectrum, or the options are endless. They could have multiple different exceptionalities and also be gifted. And so there's times when one might mask the other. So maybe their giftedness is kind of masking one of their other exceptionalities, and their other exceptionality seems to at times be masking their giftedness. And so that's why their work may seem inconsistent because there's more than one issue at play here for this student. But we still want to make sure that we identify them and we serve the gifted part of who they are too. The next type is the autonomous learner. The autonomous learner sets their own goals. They work toward their own goals. They are focused on those goals. They seek challenges for the love of the challenge. They love to learn, and it's all about the learning and the journey for them. It's not necessarily about the grades, and they might get good grades, they might not, and they might not even know what those grades are until the grades come out in the report card. And in the meantime, they're just along for the ride and loving it. They're very self-directed and they're very independent in their learning. They might be taking on extra projects and things like that just because they love the process of learning. So if you saw your child in one of those 6 types of child, it might be time for the referral process. The identification process starts with that referral. Anyone can refer a child for gifted testing. It can be the parent, the teacher, it could be the librarian at school, an administrator, a counselor. It can even be a peer or themselves. There's an online referral form on the Northside GT website. And if you cannot find that form and you need some more help finding that form, and you email me, Mrs. CDO, so mary.cdo@nisd.net, and I will give you that email again on the screen at the end of this presentation. I can send that link directly to you as well. Once you make the referral, in the referral process, you will give permission for us to test your child. And should your child qualify for gifted services, you're also giving us permission to serve your child in the gifted program. So make sure you do actually want them to be in the gifted program before you go through with the process. Then it's going to ask you to fill out a parent checklist of GT characteristics that you see or do not see in your child. And your educator will fill that out as well. And that is because you see the children in two different settings. Your educator has the advantage of seeing your child compared to all the other children in their classes, so peers of their chronological age. And you have the advantage of seeing your children outside of the school setting where perhaps their gifts show even more. Once we have the two checklists, we'll move on to the COGAT test and the MAP test, or this year in middle school, we will be giving the Iowa test. And I'm going to jump to those to talk about those a little bit more with this data collection slide. So in the state of Texas, we have two tests that are subjective tests, and we have three tests that are objective tests. So the checklists from the educator and parent are subjective tests. Our COGAT, MAP, or this year there are Iowa, are objective tests. Now within the COGAT, there are three different tests. There is a verbal test, there is a nonverbal test, and there's a quantitative test. These are ability tests. So it's not really something that your child can prepare for necessarily or study for, because it's testing their ability to kind of figure it out as they go. So they're going to be given problem situations, analogies, patterns, things like that they probably have never seen on any other test. And it's going to ask them to figure out what the pattern is or figure out the analogy that they see in front of them. What do all of these have in common, or what do they have different? What's happening in this picture? If we were to do this A, B, and C, what would be the result of A, B, and C? Questions like that. Again, it's not something they need to study for. The MAP and Iowa tests are achievement tests. They don't necessarily need to study for these tests either. The MAP and Iowa tests are tests that show us where they are currently performing. What is their achievement level currently in school in both math and reading. So we give two different tests, a math test and a reading test for achievement. This will take us back in the identification process now to creating a student profile. Student data is compiled from all of those areas, and also from things your teachers have told us about the child in comments, interactions we've had with the child, comments that you have let us know through the parent checklist. There's a portion where you can write comments. We take all of that into consideration, along with everything else about the child, other exceptionalities and things like that. And then all of that goes to the selection committee, and we discuss the child as a whole, and we really look at what's best for the child. Where would be the best placement for this child? Would the child do best if they were placed in a gifted program? And do they have needs that would be best served and met through a gifted program services? If the child qualifies, then they'll be moved into the Innovative Thinkers class in middle school. And we'll talk about the Innovative Thinkers class just a little bit more in just a moment. Know that in the state of Texas, all teachers who work with gifted students have a series of trainings that we go to. The minimum training for those who serve gifted children is 30 hours. But most of our GT specialists, like myself, have hundreds of hours of continued educational development so that we can stay up to date on all the newest information about your children and how to best serve them and meet their needs. Northside partners with Region 20 for the state in providing the very best education and classes and continued education for our gifted teachers as possible. Our Innovative Thinkers program. Like I said, if your child is identified as a gifted learner and the best placement for your child is in a gifted program, then their schedule will be changed to include the Innovative Thinkers class. Now, the Innovative Thinkers classes have a unique curriculum designed for gifted learners. We focus on skills such as collaboration, problem solving, research, innovation, leadership, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. These are the skills that we're working on in a gifted classroom, and we're honing those skills. We also have a social emotional learning curriculum and activities that we do with our gifted learners to address the emotional reactivity, high standards for themselves and others, empathy, social skills, etc. That all goes along with that emotional reactivity that is really part of being a gifted individual. We do this on every Monday. We have a Mindful Mondays. We do breathing exercises. We have lessons about, say, anxiety or kindness or reactivity or peer relations, collaboration with their peers, lessons about those issues and those skills. And then we also do a lot of self-reflection in those times and think about where we are in that journey and how each child can move forward in that journey since we're all at different places. And we also address some of this through Flexi Friday activities. Flexi Friday activities, we step away from whatever our curriculum project is that we're currently working on, and we maybe address other ways of thinking and other skills that the brain does. So, for instance, we might have a Sphero activity where we take these little round bots called Spheros, and the kids have a programming challenge where they have to stop, design something, engineer it, create it, build it, and then program their Sphero to carry it through an obstacle course or something like that. We might do a building or engineering instant challenge where the kids maybe have 10, 15 minutes and using only the materials provided, build a tower that can reach the ceiling. Or perhaps they have to, on the spot with their group, write a skit about a character who goes through a transformative change in their abilities. We might play a game like Categories that teaches divergent thinking, or we might do a game like Equate, which is like Scrabble with mathematical equations. So we all do all sorts of different types of activities on those Flexi Fridays. Now, you might ask, well, where does that fit in my child's schedule? I know that in elementary school, GT kids get pulled out. Obviously, we can't do that in middle school. Does my child have to give up other classes? How do we fit that into their schedule? Well, in middle school, GT is not an elective. If your child is placed in the GT classroom, then their schedule will change and they have to be part of the Innovative Thinkers curriculum and classes. In 6th grade, the Innovative Thinkers class is in place of their advisory. So GT kids do not go to advisory. Instead, their schedule has Innovative Thinkers. Again, it does not take the place of an elective. In 7th grade, it is a 45-minute Innovative Thinkers class, and they get a 45-minute ELA class. So in 6th grade, they get a 90-minute ELA class. And for GT kids, they get a 45-minute ELA class in both 7th and 8th grade. If they were not in Innovative Thinkers, they'd have a 90-minute ELA class. So that allows us the time to fit it in. Now, during that 45-minute ELA class, they'll have only other GT kids in that class because those are the only kids who get the 45-minute ELA class. But it won't be a GT ELA class per se, but they do have a curriculum compacted lesson. So it's a shorter, faster lesson with, again, less recursive review because our GT kids, one of the traits of being gifted is that they learn in 1 to 2 repetitions. So they do not need as much recursive review as their peers do. In 8th grade, the 8th grade Innovative Thinkers class is a high school credit class, and it is taken in place of the MAPS and COMAPS class. So MAPS class is 1 semester, COMAPS is 1 semester, Innovative Thinkers is all year long, and it takes the place of those classes. They do get the same credits, so they don't go into high school short credits. In fact, they go in with that extra high school credit. So it helps make their schedule even easier in high school for arranging to make sure that they are able to take in GT 1, 2, and the 2 ISM classes that are offered for GT students in high school. If you would like more information about our program before you make your referral for your child, you can contact me. Again, my name is Mary Cedio, and my email is mary.cedio@nisd.net. If you feel like you're ready to make the referral and would like your child tested for GT, you can go to the NISD Gifted and Talented website where you'll find the parent referral link. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.